connecting sources of abundance to points of scarcity.
Here, you can do this and it will be the green option.
We're trying to make a mix of science and tourism.
Wow. Welcome to Save My Planet. I'm Stephen Brooks. Humans are just one of millions of species here on Earth. This biodiversity is what keeps our planet humming along. At the Inbio Biological Station in Costa Rica, they pay special attention to how these relationships work. More about that later. But first, taking care of our environment begins at home, where there's all sorts of stuff that can harm the planet and us. Manda Ofox Gillespie, AKA the Green Mama, helps parents cut through all the data and get down to the nitty-gritty.
Hi, Amanda.
Hi. The Green Mama is a business that I started and founded a couple years ago, and we do consulting on living green. Guess what our largest contributor to greenhouse gases is in this country? Everybody says cars. Everybody thinks it's driving around. The first largest is our buildings and our homes and just the act of living in them.
In the U.S., buildings account for almost half of all greenhouse gas emissions. Today, Amanda's going to meet with a busy mother of two to see how she and her family can bring those numbers down.
Parenting is hard, but being green shouldn't be. We don't want to have to spend all of our time tearing our hair out. What's better? Is this better or is that better? And this is exactly the kind of thing that parents do, because parents are parents. So we're worried about everything. And there's a lot more answers about green living than there are ever about kind of parenting. Here, you can do this and it will be the green option. It's about getting the knowledge out and having it be easily accessible.
I'm a mom, and I think on a scale of 1 to 10, I aspire to be a 10 with environmentally conscious everything, but I think in reality, I'm really at a 4.
So one of the things that I walked in and noticed right away that is so great is that you have people take off their shoes. It doesn't cost anything, and it actually saves us a lot of work in cleaning. It really keeps heavy metals and other toxins and a lot of bacteria out of your house. The other thing that I think you already have is a programmable thermostat. That's a great thing that you're already doing that's saving you money. Cleaning supplies, you're doing already some of the big things. Baking soda and vinegar are what I love to tell people, like, this is what our grandparents used, it still works really well. Anything that has a skull and crossbones or warnings, we should get out of our house anyway.
Once you make a commitment to do something and it becomes a habit, it's very easy because it's just what you do. The cosmetics is a big area. I've changed some of my products, and especially because my daughter, too, is starting to be more into skincare, and I'd like to start off, the right way.
We are really, at this point in this country with beauty care products, left on our own to be diligent consumers. And unfortunately, that means a fair amount of label reading and a fair amount of checking things out beforehand. Almost anything can be in your skincare. So for instance, all the name brand lipsticks, over a third of them had lead in them. So this is crazy. Like, we know lead is a neurotoxin. We know we don't want it in our bodies. We definitely don't want it in our lips. One of the big things is fragrance. They have phthalates in them. Phthalates have been linked to endocrine disorders.
Endocrine disorders affect the way our bodies produce hormones. Let's see what other green nuggets Manda can show us.
I would say the nursery or the kid's bedroom ends up being the most toxic room in that house. As soon as we have kids or we find out we're pregnant, we go and we paint the rooms. And one, as a pregnant woman, you shouldn't be exposed to that. And definitely what you don't want to do is put your new baby into a room where you have chemicals off-gassing from the walls. The other thing I want to talk about a little bit here is the furniture. Most of the furniture that we end up putting in kids' room is pressed wood. Pressed wood in general is a lot less expensive. However, they're glued together with formaldehyde in most cases. And so formaldehyde is something we definitely want to limit exposure to in our children.
I think overall I'm really happy we're on the right track. We continue to be a team, and the family really seems to be on board with that.
The difference between those people who feel like they can do it and those who feel like this is a huge burden, is, you know, having a friend, having a community, having someone out there who says, hey, I'm doing this too, it's fun.
Green living shouldn't feel like a pain. Once it's a part of your routine, it's just that, routine. So take a page from the Green Mama's book. Make small changes one at a time, and it won't seem so overwhelming. When we come back, we'll meet the folks from Village Harvest, a group that helps distribute the bounty that grows in backyard gardens. Hand sanitizer is a popular way to help keep germs at bay, but the bottle it comes in is no good for the planet. 44% of greenhouse gas emissions in the US can be traced back to all the products we buy and the bottles and packaging they come in. So stick with hand washing. Good old soap and warm water is still the best way to fight off germs. Welcome back to Save My Planet. Every year in the US, mountains of food go to waste in restaurants, supermarkets, even in our own kitchens. And some of that food is falling off trees right in our own backyards. So what would happen if we could find a way to gather all that extra bounty and get it to local people who needed it? We'd cut down on transportation costs and make use of resources that are right at our fingertips. Well, there's a group of folks in Northern California who are doing exactly that.
This is so good.
When we bought this house, we planted these 3 trees.
3 persimmon trees, largely for ornamental purposes. They didn't realize how much abundance of fruit that they would get on a regular basis.
They're a kind of persimmon that ripens into a water balloon. And so when they drop from the tree, they splat.
People who have a fruit tree in Santa Clara Valley will average about 250 pounds.
Wow, that's a lot of fruit from just one tree. So what do you do with it all?
A friend told me about Village Harvest, and I thought, oh, okay, this could help us as well. Because we'd really gotten to the point where climbing a ladder or climbing a tree to pick these was too much for us to do. And besides, the distribution wasn't what we thought it should be.
Village Harvest has about 800 volunteers that participate on an annual basis. They volunteer their time and their hearts and their passion to help alleviate local hunger with local food.
As you can see, a whole hassle of people come and pick the trees in a morning. But not only that, but they clean everything up.
We end up being able to go out to a fruit tree and see it, and over a period of minutes, have a very tangible sense of having picked it and seeing lots of crates of fruit available.
We're looking for any pierces that may have happened in picking so that they don't actually spoil the rest of the box.
And we're not talking small potatoes here. Last year, these guys harvested 160,000 pounds of fruit.
Most communities have things like a senior center or a soup kitchen or some kind of a food bank nearby.
They get a lot of canned food, a lot of stuff that's healthy, but this is fresh. You know, the more fresh it is, the more nutrients in it.
I was really excited to see and to feel that there's people out there that are actually growing stuff and giving it to each other and realizing the abundance that they have right there in their yards.
Regular produce, if you go to the supermarket, the average distance that produce travels, any food travels, is 1,500 miles per piece of produce. And the food that we deliver takes about, it might travel about 15 miles from the tree to the person.
And that shorter distance means a lot less gasoline.
We're reducing the amount of fossil fuels that we're using, so the transportation's less, that reduces your carbon footprint. By not using refrigeration, that reduces carbon footprint because you're not using the energy to power that refrigeration.
I'm a big proponent of eating fresh food, local food, food that's grown organically or pretty close to organically.
This encourages people to really be able to eat what's grown, locally, seasonally, organically, right in their community.
And because of the warm climate, they're able to pick year-round.
The first 6 months of the year, we harvest citrus.
During the summers, we're doing stone fruit.
We do backyards, but we also do small orchards.
One of the things that we've learned since we started is that the idea is very simple, but it's also very infectious.
I'm going to let this abundance flow from one person out to the next person.
I have the ball. well, the persimmon in this case. And if you're sitting there waiting to catch the ball, I have to throw it.
We're connecting sources of abundance to points of scarcity, whether it's with food, whether it's with clothing, whether it's with anything that you see in your own community that might be going to waste.
I think one of the big things is to think about the bigger picture of the abundance that grows in any area where you live. And there's abundance, and don't think of it as a problem, think of it as a solution. And you just take it and go.
Abundance. What a great problem to have. It just goes to show you that we actually have a lot more stuff than we think we do. It's just a matter of how you see it. When we come back, we're gonna meet the folks here at the Indio Biological Station in Costa Rica and get a real butterfly's perspective on biodiversity. From kiwis to pineapples, a lot of our produce gets shipped from thousands of miles away, which leaves a big carbon footprint. But you can probably find fresh fruits and vegetables a lot closer to home. Many people have fruit trees or vegetable gardens in their yards that yield more than enough for one family. You can offer to pay for the food or help them plant and harvest it, and then share the bounty. And you can always start a garden of your own. Welcome back to Save My Planet. Sometimes it's easy to forget that we're not the only ones living on Earth. But in fact, we share the planet with millions of other species. It's this biodiversity that helps maintain the delicate balance of life. Here in the cloud forest of Costa Rica, there are all sorts of programs aimed at understanding biodiversity and educating people about its importance. These efforts have led to some unusual partnerships, like the one involving Hotel Villa Blanca, the Institute of Biodiversity, and a whole bunch of butterflies. I'm here at the Hotel Villa Blanca, outside San Ramon in the highlands of Costa Rica, with Jim Damalis, the owner, and this place is incredibly unique, really focused on biodiversity, and it's not just a hotel. This place is such a celebration of biodiversity. How are you able to share that with your guests?
Well, first of all, it's very important that the guests have a relationship with our guides, and the guides work for the hotel. So we have people that are not only experts in biodiversity, but they came from the community. They share their pride in the community.
I mean, the guides are just so incredibly trained, but where are they getting this training?
Well, a lot of the training is done in San Jose or here on the property through Indio. Indio is the Institute of Biodiversity, and they do courses for guides from the whole country. So they're able to work with parataxonomists.
Paratax what?
I was afraid you'd ask me that.
You make that up?
Parataxonomists basically specialize in studying insects.
Wow.
And Indio happens to have the largest collection of insects in Latin America.
And you actually have researchers coming here to the hotel?
Yeah, they actually live here. They spend up to 10 days consecutively at a time. Here they are on hotel property. They're usually in their research labs. They're out in the middle of nowhere. They've chosen to make a pilot project with Villa Blanca and bring their researchers here and share that information with our guests. And that's, we hope it will be one of many examples that Indio will do in Costa Rica in the future.
Thanks so much, Jim. I really appreciate it. And now we're gonna go check in with some of the guides here at Hotel Villa Blanca.
The people that come here, they have a high level of education, and that's very good for the hotel and also for the people that work here, like me.
Where did you get the training to do what you do?
I studied tourism for more than 2.5 years. The place where I study about ecology, biology, flora, fauna, English, of course. Also, once I started working here in Villa Blanca, I went to Indio. Jose Montero, that is the entomologist in charge and part of the staff, teach me about the history related with the butterflies. Once I get all the knowledge, I can explain them to the guests.
That's incredible. So you get to be a guide here, and then right here in your own yard is a whole research station.
This is a lab.
Yeah.
We have a lab here, but this is the real lab.
Thanks a lot, Roy. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much. Con mucho gusto.
What a great time.
Pura vida.
Pura vida, hermano. I'm here with Jose Montero, who is an entomologist, studies bugs, here with Indio at the Hotel Villa Blanca. Tell me, Jose, tell me about this incredible work.
The idea here is to study the biodiversity. I mean, all the individuals that live in the forest. I mean, butterflies and moths. So the idea is to study the larvae, the eggs, the pupae, and also the adults.
So why is it so important to study these butterflies and moths? Why is biodiversity so important? In the grand scheme of things, if one of these moths was to go extinct, what does it really matter?
Well, for example, we are in the tropics, and the tropics is the richest place in the world when you study insects. So in this case, for us, it's very important first to understand which species occurs in Costa Rica, because you cannot talk about extinction if you don't really understand what organisms live in one specific place. So the idea is to first know all the species that occurs in Villablanca. Then we can start detecting that kind of particularities.
You're an entomologist and you study here, but what's it like having a hotel right here also?
Well, for example, for us, it's a really interesting experience because we share our information with the tourists. So I think it's a really nice example of how scientists can share information with people.
So what is all this you got here? Show me something. Whoa!
We are going out to the field and we collect all the larvae. In this case, this is a nice automatis moth. It's a big larva.
So from this stage, then what happens? Once it...
Yes, for example, we are going to obtain an adult like this.
So this
larva
turns into this moth.
Yes.
That's incredible, and it's so furry.
In this case, we are really interested in generating information about all the relations that butterflies and moths has with other organisms. In this case, for example, if we study this larvae, we are going to obtain information about the host plant, the plant in which the larva used to feed on. Then we can obtain parasitoids, flies and wasps that used to feed on the caterpillar. Wow. So for example, if you have a crop with some plant, you can use that wasps or flies to do biological control instead of using chemicals. So we can produce a lot of important information for society and for development.
How do you catch these things? I mean, can we see some of your field work?
Yes, we're going later. We're going to a light trap. The idea is to attract all the moth, and maybe we can walk around and to see some larvae, or the idea is to show you how we collect insects.
All right, well, it sounds incredible.
Okay.
Let's do it. Wow, what'd you find?
It's larvae of moth, and look at that, all of them are together because they want to be protected. So they look like a big organism, and at the same time, they do it for thermoregulation, to keep warmer together.
Look how hairy they are.
Yeah.
Those are some hairy moths. Let there be light. Wow, this is the trap?
Yes, this is. The idea is attract the moth to the light, and they rest on the platform, and that's it. And then we can see it, we can collect it, and we can study it. Okay, there is. It's completely done. Now we have to wait maybe 2 hours and then come back again.
Before researchers can study all those butterflies, they first have to go out and catch them, and it can be quite an adventure. That's next. Here we are in the cloud forest in Costa Rica at the Inbio Biological Station, where they take their butterfly studies pretty serious. In fact, as most of us are going to bed, these guys are just getting started. So it's nighttime, and we're going to check out the trap, see if we caught anything. What do you think?
Yeah, let's go.
Vamos.
Oh, look at that.
Whoa.
This is the biggest moth in the world.
Oh my goodness. What's the name of it?
The name is Tisania agrippina.
Wow.
Wow, look at that.
My
Can you see
goodness,
that?
I've never seen one so big. Costa Rica has the biggest moth in the world?
Yes, yes.
Wow.
It's about 25 centimeters wingspan.
My
It's more than
goodness.
this.
I know, when I first saw it, I thought it was a bat.
Look at that. And look at the spines. Biggest spines
Wow.
on the legs.
Wow. So, Jose, how do you think we did?
Yeah, so-so.
So-so?
Yes. In some places in Costa Rica or sometimes here in Villablanca, you can obtain thousands of them. You cannot see the white color.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing. We have hundreds. And look at the sizes, different colors,
Beautiful. Look at this one,
different
they're
patterns.
glowing.
All of them are moth, not butterflies here. Some species that we have here occurs only in the forest. So this is another important feature about studying moth with that kind of methodology. And also you can obtain different orders of insects. For example, look at the beetle.
Wow.
I have like a million moths everywhere, either in my ears and in my brain, in my mouth.
Are any of these really rare ones?
No, maybe Tisania, because it's the biggest moth in Costa Rica and in the world. So I think it's the weirdest species that we have. But most of them are very common species that occurs in open areas and sites near forest.
Jose, now that you've caught them, what do you do now?
Well, the next step is to bring it to the laboratory and then to all spread the specimen, pin it, dry it, label it, and then send it to INVIO.
Wow, Jose, de verdad, man, buenísima. I mean, I'm totally blown away. I loved it.
Okay, thank you.
Way better than I had ever. You think about moths. Wow, big deal. We're gonna go see some moths, but I never expected this. It almost feels like a painting.
But remember that you already met the biggest moth in the world.
Wow, thanks so much, man.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna come back for sure. The work being done by INVIO gives new meaning to the phrase when a butterfly flaps his wings and makes it pretty clear that all the species on the planet are way more connected than we might think. I'm Stephen Brooks. See you next time.